I say this to everybody, comparison's the thief of joy. Like, be happy with what you have and don't always compare of why somebody has this and you don't. You're always going to be chasing something and you're never going to be happy.
Today, we're joined by Jenna, a former school counselor turned social media creator with a community of over 200,000 followers. What began during her maternity leave has grown into a career centered on authenticity, connection, and using her platform with intention. In this episode, we explore what it's really like to build a life and career online, how to balance social media with personal well-being, the impact of digital life on self-image and mental health, and the importance of setting boundaries to protect family privacy. If you've ever wondered about the realities of life behind the grid or how to navigate social media in a way that supports rather than undermines your mental health, this conversation is full of insight and honesty.
Why are people so mean on social media?
Some people really struggle with that. You have to have a thick skin. I block right away.
We have Jenna here today, and we have a really exciting topic about social media, influencing the world of all that, and we're going to dive into it. Jenna has over 200,000 followers on Instagram, so she is an expert at social media and the whole world of it. Welcome to the podcast, Jenna.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Can you just share a little bit about what got you started in the social media world?
So it happened pretty accidentally. I was working as a school counselor and then got pregnant with my older daughter and was on maternity leave. I ended up resigning, and naturally and very organically, I was becoming the mom in the know of things to do, where to go with the kids, events coming up, and becoming like a resource for a lot of my friends, people around me. And people started telling me, start a blog, start an Instagram. And I just did slowly and came from naturally sharing things that I was doing with my family.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it's probably so fun for your friends to see everything that you're doing on your maternity leave, but then also beyond that with little kids.
Yes. So, and honestly, living close to New York and New Jersey and Pennsylvania, there's always stuff going on for kids. There's so much going on that it's just endless, more stuff to do than you could possibly get it all done.
Yeah, it's an amazing place to live
Right.
if you have a family.
Yes,
Yeah.
the best.
And I love your mental health background.
Thank you.
Yes. It probably helps you understand a little bit about human behavior and what people are looking for on
Right.
social
I
media.
feel like I'm always applying it in everyday life, even though I'm not actively, practicing anymore. I definitely use it to talk to myself when people are rude or nasty, or even when I see content that makes me think like what's happening. I'm always wondering about the why and trying to give empathy and understanding when I see things online. So I definitely feel like definitely still helps and still very present and active.
Yeah, it is kind of the wild, wild west
Yeah.
The Wild West for sure.
on
And always
Instagram.
leaving. So once you think like I've got this, you don't. Like there's another wave, another trend, just different things people want to see in terms of content. When I started, it was very styled, more photos and things like that. And now it's very much like down to earth, get ready with me, talking to the camera, video. So it's always evolving and people want to see different things.
Yeah, I'm curious, like, out, because you had left your career to become a mom. At what point did you realize that, I can make this my career?
So honestly, I think I started in June, and by December, I was monetizing my account. It kind
Wow.
of just happens as it's growing and you're learning as you go. So brands start reaching out to you, and then you start reaching out to brands you want to work with, and you kind of learn how it all works. And really just started on its own that way, between me reaching out to brands and brands reaching out to me, and just kind of going from there.
Can you remember what your first brand deal was?
I don't remember the first one, but I remember within the first 3 months, I was asked to be an ambassador for Kids Bop, which is the kids
What?
group. And I thought that was pretty cool. My kids loved Kids Bop, and that was pretty early on, only a couple months in. So that was really exciting. That stands out.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big partnership.
That is
Yeah, that was awesome. And it was for a few years. Yeah.
What kind of audience did you need to be able to get a brand deal like that? I know that was way back when on Instagram, so the algorithm was a little different, things
Right.
like
In
that.
terms of followers, I definitely think I was under 10,000 at that time. I think also it's matching an audience. They're looking for your demographics. Who's following you? Is it moms following you? Is it 18-year-olds following you? Or is it mothers that are in their 30s that have kids that are going to be interested in the things your kids are interested in? Think brands always ask for your insights. They want to see the age, the gender, the country, the city of who's following you and see if that aligns with who they're trying to reach.
Yeah. So as your page evolves, so are the people who are following you,
Hmm.
right? So you have people who followed you when you were on maternity leave
Right,
with the new babies,
right.
and now you have people who are in different phases of life.
Hmm.
Do you feel like they are kind of expecting you to almost be stuck in time in a way to be that person you were originally when you started? Or do you think that they
Right.
expect you to also evolve and change?
I haven't seen too much of that. When I first started, I reached out to other creators, either local people that I thought would be nice that I could ask questions to, or bigger accounts that I thought I could ask questions to. And a lot of them, when I first started, told me like niche down. Are you fashion? Are you food? Are you mom? And it didn't feel natural for me to box myself in because it's reflecting my life and I'm a person. So, maybe at this point in time, I'm more interested in sharing clothes that I found, but maybe in a month, I'm more interested in a trip that we took. So that was actually advice that I didn't follow. And I just felt I'm going to share and post what feels like authentic to me and natural to me to share. So, in terms of my followers, expecting anything. I feel like it's always just been what's happened in my life. And I've stayed pretty true to that. There's no jumping off to this or that. It's kind of just always the flow that's happening.
So you found a way to work the career side of social media in with authenticity of living your day-to-day life.
Yes. And also finding the balance of schedule and being the mom I want to be while working. Being self-employed is a 24/7 job, but it does give you the leverage to work around the school day, still being able to pick up and drop off and doing things like that also.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit because I think some people have the perception of, oh, I'll be a social media creator, or it's a lot of work to put out consistent content.
I always say you're doing the job of 20 people and nobody realizes that. They see
Yeah.
finished video or a finished photo and they don't realize behind the scenes there's administrative work, there's emails, there's contracts. So you're literally doing your billing, your accounting, your editing, like mapping out your content or your calendar. And for me, it's always puzzle pieces. I can have all these appointments done, but if things come up for my kids, I'm switching. So I feel like there's so much that goes on the scenes, and you just scroll and see this picture, this
Finished
video,
products, yeah.
right? And you don't realize kind of what went into that, and they don't necessarily need to. It's the behind the scenes of the job, but it's definitely more than meets the eye. And I think even my friends and family don't realize how much work goes into what I do all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have what, 200 followers on our Modern Therapy
Right.
account, and the amount of time I have spent making reels and
Yeah.
putting things together, and they're not even like what you're doing of compiling a whole trip or doing a
Yeah.
paid partnership. I
Yeah.
think that people don't realize. They just see, oh, you went to a nice dinner.
I
You
al-
don't know all the stuff behind that.
and I also think it's so interesting that all types of careers now need to have a social media presence. And I make this joke all the time that you have this doctor, plastic surgeon, or this or whatever it is, and they're brilliant and they just did a 6-hour surgery and they got to come out and make a TikTok now.
Yep.
Because you have to, right or wrong, you're judged on your social media. If you're looking at a hair salon, you're going to
Mhm.
find their page and you're going to look at it. If you're going to find a nail salon, you might go look at their page. A doctor, and any industry really, a restaurant, you want to see the food pic. So it's not like taking something out of the yellow pages. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
you have a photo or video check to do. And even my friend opened a hair salon and it's beautiful, the most aesthetic, beautiful modern salon. But I keep joking with her. It's like she's this master at what she does, but she has to keep social media as part of her owning this business and allotting time for social media. So I think that's another thing too, that no matter what your industry, to be relevant, you have to have a social media presence or at least be
Yeah.
active on there.
Yeah, because it's like modern day marketing. And it's for us even we had just started our channel like 2 months ago, maybe
Yeah,
3
we
months
actually
ago.
had one and it got hacked.
Like got hacked,
gosh.
unfortunately. We lost it and then we're like, we're
lost
gonna
it.
take a break for a while. Just restarted it. But it's nice because we can get on there and we can share things with potential clients that you can't do in any other setting.
Yes.
Yeah.
It could just be us in our office just talking to them,
Yep.
explaining what modern therapy is, maybe
Yeah.
answering questions that they had in a way that you just can't do that on your website.
Right.
It's a lot more personal, but I
Yes.
think there is that balance of finding, okay, how personal do you get
Right.
versus how professional are you?
Yes,
And
right.
I'm sure you have to find that balance all the time.
Yes. So for me, for instance, my kids or husband being part of my chat, my husband's rarely ever on there because of his job and his responsibilities. And with my kids, I've been doing this almost 10 years. I've never mentioned their names, their birthdays, how old they are, what activities they're in. I've kept their personal information to a minimum to protect them. And I mention this on my socials at least 2 to 3 times a year as kind of not a holier than thou, but just an advice to other creators to think about exposure of their children and how much details are on there about their child. Because once you put things out there, it's out there forever, even if you delete it. So there is this very aware balance of I'm still their mom, and that comes first. And even things I share about myself, I don't believe people are entitled to know everything about you just because you have a presence online. There are things that you can keep for yourself. So it's definitely always a balance, especially when it comes to kids.
Yeah, I think that awareness is really important, and I'm curious to hear what the process was like for you in determining some of that. Was this a conscious conversation that you had with your husband, and at what point in the journey did that happen?
So my husband pretty much leaves things like for me. He trusts my judgment, but I discussed it with him over time. But it was for me a very blunt decision when I started that my kids were going to be protected. And that comes from a background in counseling, and that comes from a background in only working with children and sometimes seeing children in very heartbreaking situations and wanting to protect them. And basic way to do that is privacy online for as long as possible.
Yeah. Do you ever get pushback from your followers asking to know things about your kids, even in a
No.
friendly way?
The funny thing that happens is that sometimes my own friends that will follow me will see something of my kids and be like, haha, blah, blah, it's so funny with their name. And I have to delete it and
Oh.
text them and be like, I'm sorry. And they were like, oh no, I'm so sorry. I forgot. Like I thought it
Yeah.
was your personal page. Like, because they're just going back and forth, but I always let them know, and they're human. They make a
Of
mistake.
course,
But
yeah.
that's really the only thing. I have never had anyone say, you better, like, why don't you tell your kids like, that would be pretty nervy, but and
You'd
I'd
be
be
like,
ready
"Blocked."
for that. Yeah, I'd be ready for that. But no, I feel like I explain it very well on why it shouldn't be something that's out there. And I don't judge anyone that does. I'm more worried for people that do.
Yeah. Right. Because it's not an issue until it is.
Right.
It's one of those things.
It's one of those things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So the world of like social media influencing can look very glamorous on the outside, and I know you talked a little bit about work that goes on behind the scenes. But what do you wish that people understood about this lifestyle?
I would say that it's always changing and that it's exhausting, and it's not the type of thing where you can say, I'm gonna go on vacation and like truly be on vacation, because emails come in, you have to answer them. For me, I'm professional. I won't let emails go more than a few hours before I respond. And that's just me and my work ethic. And it doesn't drain me. If it did, I'd reevaluate. But I think it's not you snap a picture, post it, and go about your day. People sit and plan and edit, and it takes days and weeks. And it is an all consuming job.
So, how do you set boundaries if you have a night where you don't want to be on social media?
If my kids are like, "Hey, let's watch a movie," I will put my laptop away, because if I'm home, I'm on my computer and doing something. I try to take time if I'm out with my friends or my family's over to try to make myself take those breaks. And on a vacation, I'm not sitting with my computer at the pool. But maybe before we leave for the day or when we get back from the night, I'm giving myself time. And then during the days for my family.
Is that hard for you to do? Because I feel like there's this feedback cycle that does happen on social media, whether you have 10 followers or 100,000 followers, where you just get the likes or the stats and there's that ping.
Yes. So I feel like I'm better about it now. And maybe that's something that comes with time. I feel like when you first start, you feel like it's now or never almost like I have to do this like right now and respond to every single thing. And now I'm like, okay, I could do it tonight. I could do it tomorrow. So I feel like that just comes with being more settled in what you're doing versus when you first start and you feel like you have to grab at everything and do it immediately.
How does it work if you have a paid partnership you're doing and you're expected to show up, but you're having a bad day or you just got in a fight with your husband or real life happens, but you kind of have to go and be really excited and be on. How do you balance that?
Usually for something like that, you're filming it and it's not the day you post it. So it's like you need to adjust your filming schedule. I've told people plenty of times, my kid's sick. I need to push this a day or two. And most people are really accommodating in terms of if there's a deadline for something and you need to push it. A lot of them understand they're working with moms and stuff and things happen. It's one sickness. Sometimes you get in a thing where it's one sickness after another.
Yep.
So I feel like, there's leverage there. There's a little bit of wiggle room because it's not same day. You're not signing a contract and filming and posting that day. These things sometimes take weeks or months. So there's actually, it's not as like right this second. If it's an event and you need to go, then you need to go.
You need to turn it on.
Yeah, and you just need to make the best of it. But most of the time, it's things that you're setting up at home, and you could kind of play around with it a little bit if you need.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the emotional side of social media. What are some of the negative things that you've experienced on social media, and how do you think it's impacted mental health?
So I feel like a lot of creators that I see are always like watching each other. And, it's not even from your audience, from each other.
Like a comparison game.
And yeah, and like, why did this person get this and not? It's just stuff I see when I observe. So it's not things that affect me personally because I truly want everyone to win. Like, if a brand reaches out to me and I pass on something, like, I'll say, here's a few other people that may be really interested. Or if they say, do you have anyone else with account like yours? And here's the names. There's room for everybody. But when I see a lot of people, and I guess your audience would do this too, to people just out there, like, why her, not me? I have more followers or my content's better. And I think that just gets like very ugly and messy. So I try to stay away from that. I'm trying to be like, no drama, like stay in my little bubble and kind of not take things personally.
Yeah, I mean, and that's across the board, really. That's human nature, I think.
Yeah.
Like you have that in any type of business where
Right.
you're
Like,
looking
why
at
this person get the promotion?
right,
Right. You're
career,
longer.
right?
Yeah.
I think it's hard too because you're probably comparing against yourself a lot. Okay, my last 3 reels, this one's better. This one is
Yeah.
doing this.
Right. What went wrong. Certain things you learn over time that like sometimes it's just not you. The algorithm changed. You notice a day of the week, maybe your views are lower because maybe your family, followers are with their families that day, if it's a Sunday or something. Or just things like that. Like you have to not take it personally. And I know that comes with time of building like a thicker skin to be like, it's not me. Like, you know what I mean? And this is actually something I tell brands all the time and just talk about is that your followers are not robots. They have lives. Like maybe they got a little busy. I'm not going to think if my views went down, oh my God, like everyone hates me. What did I do? Like I need to reevaluate my whole life and, what I'm doing. But you have to have a thicker skin for that to not, because there are people who be like, what am I doing wrong? What? And it's like, it's not you per se. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean it's you.
Yeah. That reminds me, like I was listening to something, I forget where it was, but they were talking about views and that they're actual people on the other side of those things. And I think it's really easy to forget that those little numbers are actually representative of real people and real eyeballs.
Yeah.
And, it's easy to get frustrated if a piece of content doesn't perform well.
Right.
But then when you actually look at it and say, oh, 100 people saw this or 1,000 people saw this, if you put 1,000 people in a room,
Yes. And
it's
they all complimented you. Right.
Yeah.
And even, a big thing in brands, and they, let's say, give this code and a discount code, and they measure success by how many times this code was used or things like that. And I try to explain that even when they do well, if they don't do well, really it doesn't matter. But I'm just like, I treat my followers as people. I'm never going to be a sales associate to them and throw a code down their throat. Buy this right now. My code's only good for 24 hours. Like, I never want them to feel like you are just a sales transaction for me to do better for myself. No, like, I share it, buy it or not. Like, to me, I know it resonates because months later, somebody will reach back out and say, hey, I got this worked great. Or, hey, is your code still good? And it's not, but who cares? They remember that I shared this product. Or if it's travel, I've had people ask me about trips I did years ago. So it's like sometimes the measures of success are not in immediate sales or results. It's conversations that are happening in DMs. It's people resonating with your content and trusting it months later to remember something you shared. To me, those are the things that matter more than like, here's my code for 10% off of something. I hate that, it's part of the job in some brand partnerships, but I always stress to every single brand, I will not be a sales pitch to my audience. It's not happening. I don't like it.
Do they receive that well, or do you get pushback sometimes?
Sometimes pushback, but it's something that I feel strongly about because people don't like it. Like, you know what I mean? And honestly, like, fashion per se is not my niche. So it's not like I'm sitting here sharing outfits every single day with a code. So it's like things do come up, and if people want to use those codes, they can. But also, your audience doesn't realize those things are important. So they don't understand you're being judged on that code and it being used. Why can't they just go look online for a code? They don't realize that this matters. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm not going to sit there and explain to them, hey, it's really important you use my code for this to be a success. I'm never doing that. Like, use my code. You found another one. Like, great. I'm happy that what I shared resonated with you. And I'm never going to be that person.
Yeah. So how do you strike the balance between, this percentage of content that isn't branded versus this percentage is, or is that kind of different for everyone?
It kind of is just as things happen. So I do try to space out partnerships so they're not bombarded. Certain seasons are more than others, especially like holiday time.
Yeah.
And, and you will see creators say, I am sorry. You're going to see a lot of sponsored content. This is how I support my family. And that's true,
Right.
But in terms of times where it's not so time sensitive, you definitely try to space it out more so your audience doesn't feel like you're just throwing ads on them.
Yeah. And how do you decide, okay, this is someone, a partnership I'd want to work with, this one isn't? Do you
Right.
have a lot you've turned down?
Oh my
Criteria.
God, definitely more I've said no to than yes. There's certain types of companies as a whole I wouldn't feel comfortable working with that I've been pitched just because, like, my parents follow me and family, like certain things, more adult things that I don't think are like appropriate. But I think I would assume most creators say no more than yes. I definitely do because I don't want it to be an ad channel. And honestly, it has to be something that resonates with me. Everything I recommend, I've used, I've done, if it's a trip. And honestly, people have asked me, well, what if you didn't like it? And I'm like, well, then I don't post it. And that's been a conversation, in doing this almost 10 years that happened. And I've had to tell the brand, the company, like, hey, I can't lie. I don't feel comfortable, this or this wasn't what I thought, and it does not get shared. And that happens even with local people who do restaurant reviews. There are ones that they don't share because it didn't go well. They didn't like it. So true, creators in that way are mindful of that. And they're not just going to say that. There are, I'm sure, ones that do. But I will say I have never recommended something that I didn't like. And I feel like that's just important integrity wise to not just be doing things for money and turn down things that don't make sense.
Yeah. That's how you build that trust with your
Right.
followers. So they know, okay, if Jenna is posting this, then she truly believes in this.
I hope so.
It's like any business, you have your values, your mission, what you're trying to accomplish,
Yeah.
and that's a responsibility that
Yeah.
you take seriously. From a counseling lens, how do you think digital life impacts how people view themselves?
As a mom of girls, it's something I think about all the time, just in terms of like body image and seeing perfect people online and not thinking like this is filtered, or they have a professional makeup person, or they had plastic surgery, which no judgment on those things, but I think young eyes don't look and assume all those things. They just think, why do they look like this and I don't look like this? So having daughters, in terms, that's huge weight on me. But and I think also, aside from body image and self-image, it's a lot of why do they and me not me. Like if you follow people and they have flashy house, flashy car, designer bags, designer this, and you're like, I work hard, why don't I have? So there's a lot of comparison game. And I think, it depends on your personality if you can rationalize and separate yourself from it, or if you're absorbing, and kind of being, playing into it almost of I'm not good enough because look at all these people that have this or that. And true creators will tell you like these things are highlight, like they're not showing you their worst day. And so, but it's also a double-edged sword, because let's say you cried on camera, they would be like, ew, would you set up a camera to record yourself crying?
Right.
And they're trying to have an authentic moment and show this vulnerability. But if they don't show the bad moment, then it's like, oh, you show your perfect life. Like what, so it's like sometimes you just can't win, and you have to be okay with that. You're not going to make everybody happy. You're just not.
It's impossible. Right?
Impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's an impossible thing to have as a goal. It's not going to happen. Just accept it,
So it sounds like you've done a good job of conquering that comparison game, and that, like, for somebody who's struggling for that, what advice would you give them on overcoming that?
I would just say, if it's feeling stressful for you, sign off. I hate the term like go touch grass. It's so like, like sarcastic almost. But the truth behind that of being like, go see your family, go see your friends, get back in like real life, not this digital world. And just to kind of understand, like, look at it as you're looking through what people want you to see, and not everything is shiny and happy. And also, I say this to everybody, comparison's the thief of joy. Like, be happy with what you have, and don't always compare of why somebody has this and you don't. You're always going to be chasing something, and you're never going to be happy with what you have.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's deceptive too. I saw one service where they just took a shell of an airplane, and you can just go rent a jet set.
So yes, I saw that, and then the post would be like, "Look at me flying private,"
It's all
to
fake.
Monaco, and so fake. And I feel like that's so, to talk like my kids, cringe, because like, ew, like I don't know, there's something gross to me about that. Like
Yes.
I don't want to portray my life to be bigger than it is, to make other people feel smaller, or like that I'm better than that. And I don't ever want that to come across in my content either. And when I have had followers reach out and be like, you're relatable, or brands reach out and be like, you're down to earth and that's why we want to work with you, that to me is a sign of success, because I don't want to be someone that they're like, she thinks she's better than people. Like, I'm never. That's gross. Very ick to me.
And I think that's where you see a lot of that trend is coming from, where before, like you said, it was very aesthetic and things perfectly posed. I'm thinking
Yes.
almost like Pinterest days,
Yes.
where now it's changing to, we want to see real life. We want to see
Right.
a real mom
Right.
using a real product
Yes.
and telling us like why it works.
Right. And right. So when I first started, everything was like picture perfect photography. And then it moved into video and reels, and then day in the life, get ready with me, talking to the camera in your car, eating, talking, And so I think people want to see more real, and some people will run with that and turn their real life into more a curated real life they want you to see. But I do think it's interesting that people relate a lot to just do your makeup and like chit chat and drink a coffee and chit chat, and, and really feel like they're having a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt a pressure to maybe put some of that authenticity to the side and, kind of like prop up the highlight reel just for the gram?
I don't think so. I'm pretty, again, I feel like I'm different in some ways where like I don't know if it's the oldest daughter, I don't know if it's a Leo, I don't know what it is, but I'm kind of like I own this, I built this, and I'm never going to do anything that doesn't feel good to me. Being fake or portraying anything that doesn't, it would just make me sick.
Yeah.
And I just can't. Like, you know what I mean? And if that means passing on things, if that means saying no more than I'm saying yes, then that tide will turn and I'll roll with it until it does. I just can't.
Yeah, and it probably would come across in the content anyway. People would
Yeah.
see that and be like, oh, she looks a little uncomfortable.
Right. Or this isn't something she's ever talked about before or something
Right.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You talked a little bit about the comparison game in the
Mm-hmm.
highlight reels. Why are people so mean on social media?
You know, it's crazy. I was saying, like, when the internet was first becoming big and, you know, us millennials were on AIM and, you know, AOL. And I try to tell my kids, like, you don't even know what it took to get up. Like,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
Seriously.
The dial-up.
Seriously.
you know, you don't even know
And then
what
your
it
mom
took.
would pick up the phone
Yeah,
while you're
disconnect
online.
the whole
Oh.
thing. Yeah. But anyway, there was always this joke of like, you know, the guy in his mom's basement just being mean. I mean, and that was from when it started. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that hasn't gotten better. It's only gotten worse, if
Yeah.
anything. And I just think people feel so much more comfortable to say anything that they would never say to you in person. And I think it's always so funny when it's somebody with a profile where the picture's a cat or you know, a random celebrity, like it's not real, and their name is something like your mom's #1 fan or something crazy, and they clearly have nothing, clearly so fake, and but they'll just go on everyone's account and, you know, you should die, you're ugly, you're this, you're that. And you're like, oh my God. Some people really struggle with that. You have to have a thick skin. I block right away. I'm not fighting with you. You're not taking my energy.
Good.
I'm not feeding into this. And I'm just not entertaining it whatsoever. But people do because it's engagement and it's views. And if that works for them and they're not like eaten alive by it and when thinking about it all night, as long as it's healthy for you, like get your engagement. For me, it's you're not taking my piece. And I kind of take it from where it comes. If you're hiding behind a fake profile, like, do I care what you have to say?
Yeah. Yeah. Has it always been that way for you?
Honestly, yeah.
That's
But
good.
I understand that's kind of like not the norm. When it's something I talk to my own kids about, like they're not on social media and I want to keep them off for as long as possible. But when they are, you see at a young age, even in person. Like I remember when they were in preschool, I would hear kids say like, your sweater's babyish. I'm like, you're all 3. Like, what do you mean? Like, you know what I mean? I'm just like, oh, can you imagine? So, I mean, and then imagine having that taken away to have the guts to say things in person when you're a kid shooting off with the mouth, and now you're just an adult with this whole playground where you can be anonymous
Yeah.
and be rude and be
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if it was in person? Like someone just walks up to you like, I
It-
hate your shirt.
Yeah,
I
right.
hate
I don't think it
it.
would happen.
Right.
That'd be horrible.
No, I mean, you
horrible.
really, yeah, and so it's like, why do you want to attack people online that
Yeah.
you don't know? Like, to me, that does not fit into my life at all. I can't even imagine someone with a full life. So maybe that's where the counselor comes in and goes,
Yeah.
something happened that created this environment to you where this is what you feel like you need to be doing.
Yeah.
And I probably say it not so nicer. I always tell my kids, happy people don't look to bring other people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if someone's that miserable and that's how they make a day for themselves, I'm sorry, actually. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I don't feel the need to do that to
Yeah.
anybody.
That's
Yeah.
such a healthy outlook to have on it. Are you noticing that if a reel starts getting past a certain viewpoint, that these people start coming out more? Because I'm imagine it's not your regular followers.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, honestly, I don't know if it's like probably for all women, it's a lot of weird messages from men. A
Ugh.
lot of it's like a running joke, like sugar daddy. They're gotta be, but it's like random sugar daddy message. It's just weird. Yeah, you definitely start to get weird things, and just again, block, not responding, not feeding into any of that. Just block immediately.
I think that's a really healthy way to look at it.
Because otherwise it's going to eat you alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're sitting there and thinking of every negative even a food account, they'll start picking out, I would have used this. This looks like crap. What are you going to do? Shut down your whole channel because Mark X, with the cat picture thinks your food's terrible. Like, no, come on.
You mentioned that you don't let your kids on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
We just got our kids' phones, and that was an excruciating decision, and it was out of necessity of being able to reach them. But in terms of social media, there's absolutely no need for it. And my kids already know people that are on different social media. And of course, as many times as I've said to them, I don't care what anyone has or does. I've been saying that since they were kids. Because don't say, well, Maria has, I don't care what Maria has. I tell them every house has different rules. And everybody does what's best for their family. Does it kill me to know that kids their age are on social media already? Yes. I saw a quote that said, give your kids social media when you want their childhood to end. When you hear that and when you read that, it's a punch in the gut. When I was a counselor in the schools, I had 5th and 6th grade. And this was a long time ago at this point. Every day I was putting out social media fires. It was mostly Instagram at that time, but people would bring me screenshots of comments, and kids couldn't understand, why am I getting in trouble for things that happened at home? This didn't happen in school. And that's what I try to tell kids. Their brains are not developed. You don't understand the consequences of what you're doing. So something you're doing at home impulsively is now following you into school. You can't just tell someone, like, I'm going to kill you. The cops will be at your house now. You can't just write these things. And it's very scary. And I think kids just don't understand the consequences of social media enough. When I was a counselor, a quick story, because I think these apps still exist. There was an app where you would sign up and people could anonymously ask you questions. So it was literally throwing yourself in the lion's den, because it wasn't your friends saying, why are you so pretty? It could be your own friends, and you would have no idea, saying to you, why are you such a slut? Why are you such a fat pig? Why do you like
That's
Louis?
horrible.
You know what I mean? And I would say to my students, why would you put yourself in this situation? Because they would come in hysterical.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's anonymous. Like, they could say whatever they want to you, and these apps still exist. And it's just, the longer the better to keep your kids away from that stuff.
Yeah.
They're too young. They don't understand the consequences. Even, not to go off on a tangent, but things like sending pictures, like nudes or videos and things like that. It starts very young. I hear things from parents with older kids that make me shake to my core. And some states, including New Jersey, are very strict where it's distributing child pornography, like text it to
Yeah.
someone else. And so, that's another conversation I had to tell with my kids, that I hope this is years away and maybe never a problem, but God forbid you ever get sent, deleted immediately. You don't send it to anybody. They're just not ready. They're not ready
100%.
for those kinds of responsibilities.
Social media has obviously been around for a while, but I think the millennials are starting to raise children. And like when we were younger, this was not a thing. This was not a problem.
Right.
So
Started with AIM. I even remember being young and there would be like the chat rooms and stuff. And
Oh my God. So me and my sister and all of our friends would go in chat rooms that was like, cowboy looking for, you know what I mean? Like, it's a chat room, crazy. And it was like the Wild West out there,
and that would give our parents a heart attack. I remember I must have been young, maybe elementary school. I was
Yeah.
really obsessed with cows. I don't know why. It was a thing. And I had some like cow screening.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what it was. And so like these random people would
Right.
find me
Right.
because they'd be looking for like
Yes.
cow stuff.
Yes.
And I remember one time my friends and I were in a chat room and this guy came in with like a cow name and my mom looked over my shoulder like, who are you talking to?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I don't know, like cow lover
Yeah.
1, 2, 3,
Right.
4. She was
Oh,
probably
yeah.
about to rip my computer
Yeah.
out of. You can't do. I wasn't allowed to see my friend who was
Right.
in the chat room.
Right,
She's
right.
like, and I'm like, what's wrong? It's just some guy who loves cows. And she's like, oh my gosh, get away from me.
Even when I was in middle school, I told on a couple of my friends who were going to meet people they met on. I was always like the mom. I don't know. And
Thank God for that.
and I didn't care. They were mad at me. Like, maybe I saved their life. Like, you know what I mean? They were going to
Right.
go meet
Yeah.
some random guy, like in a park. And so those things haven't gotten better. You're talking like 20 years ago. It's still not better.
Well, and I think you could have more control over it before. Like at
Yeah.
the time, my mom could say, we have a house computer, you're not allowed on it because you're talking to strangers. Where
Yes.
now it's on, you can access it everywhere.
24/7,
So
anywhere you
24/7.
go.
I think having that education for kids
Yeah.
is really important, that when they
Right.
are on there, that you're also equipping them. And that I think it's really important that parents have access to it.
So another thing that I have told my kids for years, and my kids are good, like they never get in trouble and anything like that. But I've always said to them in their interactions with friends, with classmates, you never write anything that you can't explain to me, your teacher, their parent, your principal. And I
That's
drill
so
this
good.
That's
multiple
amazing.
times a year.
Yeah.
Better be able to explain it. And if you cannot explain it without dying of embarrassment, don't write.
Yeah.
That's so
That's a
good.
great tip.
Doesn't mean they're not going to make a mistake at some point, but I try to drill that in to show that it matters. It doesn't matter if you had this conversation when you were on vacation in Texas and nowhere near your school. You say something inappropriate, it is following you right back to school. And another distinction, I think, from when we were growing up to now is that we used to have a break from each other. So if you had a bad day with somebody at school and you had a fight with them, or a girl had drama with her friends, everyone could go home and kind of cool off and come back tomorrow and it was like over. Now, the fire is constantly fueled because you don't get a break from each other. You can
Yeah.
go home from school and have a text fight and a group chat fight and fight on FaceTime, and you're not getting a break to like emotionally cool off and reset and assess the situation. It's very right now and relentless. Like there's no stopping.
It is a little bit of a double-edged sword though, because there's a lot of negative that comes from having a phone, social media.
Yep.
But this is where all the kids are, that you need to get in touch with your kid.
Yes.
So like at what point do you make the decision of like, I'm going to implement this, I'm going to grant access?
I think comes as necessity and as you go. So like for me personally, I saw a need for my kids to have phones. I don't see a need for them to have social media, you know? And again, it's like, where do you find that line where you don't want them to be first? You don't want them, I guess, to be last. So where in the middle do they fall? And I think you just have to know your kid. Is your kid responsible? Is your kid who their friends are, and like, and be over their shoulder. I know there's a fine line between outright spying on your kids online and being involved, and that's again something every family's going to have to kind of figure it out as they're in it. But yeah, you can't just hand them a phone, have a 5-minute talk with them and send them on their way. This is something that constant conversations and monitoring and just talks and like being involved in their life, and as much as you can.
Yeah. You have to be equipped for it. And
You
I
have
think
to be equipped for it.
setting those expectations ahead of time of
Right.
you could be on Instagram, but I'm going to follow you. You can't
Right.
delete
Well, that's
me.
another
You
thing,
have
too.
to
They
be
have the fake
private.
accounts. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think having the expectations ahead of time of like, this is what I expect from you. And if
Right.
I see anything else, then we're
This
not
is-
going to be able to use
And
it
this
anymore.
is an automatic consequence that you will expect to. And
Yeah.
I have very few, but I have a couple of friends that are not on any social media, which is obviously so rare. And now their kids are getting older. And I've said to them, you need to maybe not be active, but you at least need to understand the different social media, or your
Yeah.
kids will run circles around you. Kids are by nature going to push boundaries and see what they can get away with and what they can do. And if you don't understand the apps, you're already like 8 feet under. You know what I mean? Like whether you're not into social media or not, you still have to exist in a world where it's everywhere around you. So you at least need to understand how it works.
Yeah, that's a great point. You need to know how to navigate the landscape, or else you're going to get
I've
out
said this to my
navigated.
Yeah.
friends so many times. I was like, you need to learn or your kids will run circles around you. And it's not because their kids are bad. It's just because their kids are kids. And there's quite an advantage to your parent not knowing what's going,
Of
and not
course.
being
Right.
Like in
So,
anything,
like in
right?
anything.
I think just in general, having boundaries around things is
Yeah.
it's just always a good idea. I
Yep.
think whenever you just give a kid anything,
Yep.
even an adult, like if you don't have boundaries for yourself, when you say, I'm going to download Instagram and I'm going to use it for however many hours a day I want, and I'm going to post anything that
Yeah.
just comes to my mind, you're going to have issues navigating it.
Yep.
So I think being able to have boundaries of how much time you want to spend on
Yeah.
it, what you're willing to show or
And I
not
feel
show.
like there's so many adults that still are learning
They
that,
need to have these
clearly. Yes,
conversations.
Yeah.
for sure. Sure.
You mentioned some of your friends aren't on social
Mm-hmm.
media. You're like way on social
Yep.
media, right? Do you have a lot of friends that you've met through social media that are also influencers or?
Yes, I do have a couple that I like very much and trust. There's, it's funny, like you go to events and stuff and you kind of just feel out like who's my vibe here. And some people are not your vibe, and that's fine. And also, it can be so competitive that I don't want to be in any drama. So, like, for a long time, I just kind of stayed away, didn't go to events, and kept myself in a little bubble. But then after a few years, I was like, I like networking. I like going to events. And I've been able to seek out the people that I felt like were a good match to be friends with. So it is nice to be able to have conversations with people who get it and know the back scenes and know all the work that goes in. So, because sometimes when you're talking to your friends or people who don't get it, they don't understand.
Yeah. And I think it's like anything else when you meet people. Just because someone else is an influencer doesn't mean that they're going to automatically be similar to you or have the
Right.
same values.
Yep.
And sometimes I think that influencers can get lumped into one big category.
Yes.
Like they're an influencer,
Yes.
but what does that even
And that's
mean?
also not a word I ever use. And like, so if someone said, "What do you do?" I would say I work on social media
Oh,
or I do content creation. Ever catch me saying I'm an influencer, just slap me. I think it has a very nasty connotation and a very
Oh,
self-indulgent
that's
take.
interesting. I'm sorry for using the term
No,
then.
no, no,
Yeah.
no.
yeah.
I didn't know that though.
I work
Yeah.
in influencer marketing. I'll say that, but
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
never say I'm an influencer.
Okay.
Like, I just never, you will kill me before.
Do you think it's
I-
too much of like a pat on your own back to
I,
say
yeah, I
that? Is
don't
that
like it.
why?
I just feel like it's very indulgent and it's very almost pretentious, and it's just not me. So I will dance around that word and say
Yeah.
I work in influencer marketing, I work in social media, I do content creation. That's usually what I say.
Is that a common thing in the industry that
No.
people don't want to use that term, or is that personal?
I would say it's like half and half. Some people, it's funny. It's more of like an ego, and you could tell their aspirations are different than mine. And I don't mean that judgmental per se, but they are very much like, look at this PR I got, and that it's a thing. Like, if brands send you stuff, you should share it. But it's people sometimes do it in a way that's like, I'm so great, or I'm doing this. They're talking about themselves in a very way that they want that
Egocentric,
title.
right.
Yes, and
Yeah.
they want I'm an influencer. Like, and they're chasing a different thing. Our goals are different.
Right, right. Chasing the fame.
Yes, they want different like results, I guess. Yeah.
What drives you to do this work?
Honestly, counseling is still a very big passion of mine. But it is this line of work and this path has given me so much freedom to be the mom that I want, as well as opportunities for our family, whether it's media trips and press trips. Traveling is something super ingrained in like our family core, and how we spend time together. So just experiences and freedom in motherhood to really be a mom that I want to be. I want to be the mom that drops them off and picks them up and, doesn't miss things. So I feel like it's been very rewarding in that way to be able to have that.
Yeah, to have that involvement.
Yeah.
And let's say you're on a vacation that was paid for.
Mm-hmm.
Is it hard sometimes to be in the moment and take content? And when you want to just kind of be like, oh, I just want to enjoy this and not even
So
think about
no,
that.
because I keep it super realistic, and honestly, it's following our day, but it's not all day because I don't want my kids to feel that kind of pressure. Like, we will take the shots or things we're doing and then we move on. I've seen really funny videos of a whole setup of, let's say, toys at the pool or this and that, and then they stop filling and the toys go away and they go in the house, and it was kind of like it was all for show. Like,
Right.
I don't do that at all. Let's say if we're going to the pool, as soon as we get there, I'm going to take some shots of the setup and everything, and I'll take some of my kids enjoying it, doing the water park, but their phone is not shoved in their face the whole time. We get the couple of shots we need, and then we are in the moment.
It's almost like you have a process.
I try. I mean, yeah, I feel like we're in a groove now. It's like one of those funny things. If we get to a hotel or something and I need to film the room, everyone knows, like, huddled in the corner. And
Yeah.
but again, it's something that takes a minute. It's not
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that I'm dragging out when my kids are in the hallway. So you do kind of get in a groove of things.
Yeah. What about for your husband and your kids if they're not feeling it that day?
Yeah,
Or
they're
do
like,
they
oh,
just
come on.
They
They're
just
not
know
in
they
it.
have
They're
to.
not in it. There's like my husband's never in anything, but like my kids, it's always on them. And I honestly leave it to them. Like they'll hear like a funny trending sound and be like, "Oh, we want to record this with you." Like
Yeah.
I don't
Aw.
ask them
So it
because
kind of in that way becomes like a family, like it's
right,
in
and
certain
I don't
scenarios.
ever want any of my success to be or failure or any of it on them. They are not the star of the show, and I mean that in like the most loving way.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
I'm not building a channel riding on my children. They don't need that kind of pressure. So it's like, do you want to do this? Yes or no? Like literally, that's how it is. Yes or no? I had to film something a few weeks ago, and it was going to be me and my nephew, and both the girls were like, "We want to be in it."
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. I didn't ask them, but sure, okay. Like,
Right.
so especially as they're older, they're in it so much less and only when they want to. 100%. I don't ever want that pressure to be.
Because you do see that a lot with family vloggers and channels where it's so much their kids and
Right.
they're reciting lines every day.
So those are things that I do have strong opinions in about. And I would say if it sounded judgmental, it is what, it's something I
Yeah.
feel strongly about that. So when my kids were younger, they would show me these YouTube families that they follow, and they would ask me, like, can we be a YouTube family? Can we start a YouTube channel? And I would tell them absolutely not. They didn't understand why because they were so little.
Yeah.
But now they do understand. As being older, I said, you don't understand that these kids are not having a life, and like this kind of pressure to have lines essentially, and like almost like a script for a TV show,
They're
It's
and
work.
working.
They're work.
setting up
Yeah.
all these things. Like nothing's fun. It becomes all about chasing numbers. Like that is not a kid's responsibility. I'm sorry. I'm very against the family channels. I'm very against using your kids to grow your pages and around channels that are like all about the family in that way, where like your kid's not getting to be a kid because they have so much pressure to have success on channels. And I just feel like that's not fair whatsoever.
And it's so good that you had that outlook before you started your channels
Always,
because
yeah.
I think so many of these parents don't realize that, and like something might go viral and they're like, that
Right.
worked. Let me do
There's
that
a-
again.
So there's a wave now happening where people are not showing their kids' faces and they're taking their kids a step back because there is this parasocial relationship where you have your certain followers that would feel like they know you. They know
Yeah.
your kids. And then I feel like, they are entitled to your kids. And I've seen
Yeah.
people share stories where someone like ran up to them and hugged their kid at the mall. It's like,
Ugh.
whoa, whoa. And your kid's a kid. They don't understand why is this stranger like coming near me. So, I think that it's something maybe people when they're beginning, they're still learning. And then once they get in a group, then they're like, okay, I know better.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Give yourself room for all of them.
Yeah.
Do the other side where I think people maybe they do know the harm of it, but they see the views go up and they see the money coming in,
Right.
and those are the certain families
Right.
that I'm sure you have off the top of your head already,
Yes.
but that you watch and you're like, this is so
I
unethical.
hate it. And you've seen even worse of like sexualization of kids. And
Yeah.
anytime I see a kid like in a teeny bathing suit because of my husband's job and because of my job, my brain goes to bad things. And when you see videos of kids, especially girls, you will see it's sick, more saves, more shares. Who do you think is saving and sharing those
Of
pictures?
course.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it shakes you to your core. And this is why I'm like, I don't care if I sound like rude or know it all. Do not post your kids dancing seductively. Don't post your kids in a bikini. I don't care how old they are. The younger is worse. Just don't do it.
I don't even know why they're making kids bikinis. like
That's what
that's a
I'm
whole
saying.
nother.
That's
But that's
insane.
another
Like-
rabbit hole.
And I don't
Exactly.
care if I sound like the most square or like whatever you would want to call it. If I'm protecting other kids, I don't care.
Mhm.
I don't care.
They just had a documentary on Hulu, I think, or maybe it was Netflix, where it was about this woman who she bought a house and she had her daughter, and then she would like bring in these friends.
Yes,
but
I
yeah,
saw
you
it.
probably watched
Yep.
it.
And
Yeah.
and my daughters knew the girl,
Oh,
and they had watched some of
Of
her older
course,
videos, and
yeah.
that girl was also super sexualized,
yes.
and now older and so like almost brainwashed or conditioned that
Mhm.
she's now legal and posting it's like the game is up, but
Mhm.
It's like no child, you're not looking at your own child from this like devious or inappropriate view, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, others are.
But that's the part of it that's like you mentioned, it gets more likes and saves. So I think you see that, and it fuels this addiction of like, oh, this is doing better. Let me post this. Let me post this, and then
Yep.
all of a sudden,
It's a problem.
it's a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like you either don't want to know or not going there to think of like, well, who's liking and saving
Right.
a
Right.
picture of your kid dancing on the beach in a
Right.
bikini.
Right,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
Like, come on, you know.
As a social media person, right?
Yeah, he's like,
I'm
he's trying not
I
to
was
say it.
I'm not offended. If somebody else would use it, I will never use
Okay,
it.
all right, all right.
It's almost like complimenting yourself in a
Yeah.
way, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to say this
Okay.
about myself.
Working in social media,
Yes.
how are you going to prepare your kids for when they do get social media?
I think talking young and always having a conversation about it is important, and then setting very clear boundaries in terms of use. My kids, I actually just told them yesterday that I was kind of like proud in a sense that they're not addicted to their phones. Like they don't bring them everywhere. Like if they're with me, they don't need it. The whole point is to be able to reach or not with me. They're not like addicted to chatting with their friends all day and just sitting on FaceTime and sitting on these group texts. Like they do their own thing. They're still creative. They're still doing other stuff in the house. And like I want to hold on to those things as much as possible. But I feel like I'm always very open in my conversations with them. So they understand why social media is not happening now. It's not happening anytime soon. And when it does, that there's going to be a lot of regulations and rules that come along with it. And any misuse, it's gone, you know. Trust is very big, and they know that. Like, I need to trust you.
And having these conversations so candidly, I think allows kids to go to you, go to their parents and say, hey, I saw this or this person commented this. What do I do? Because I
Right.
think when kids are scared to come to their parents, that's when a lot of the issues happen.
Right. Even talking about stranger danger, I used to say to them, no adult would ask a child for help. Like, you know what I mean? No, there's no you can't help someone find a lost dog. Like you're a little kid. You know what I mean? So I was trying to I'd show them like the ways people would be like manipulative towards kids, even with that. Even to tell them sometimes it's not a stranger. I used to tell them if somebody's picking you up and it's not me, you will always know who it is. Because sometimes it's someone you know. Like
Right.
so it's, if I'm not picking you up and you know my sister's picking you up, you're gonna know your aunt's picking you up. It's never gonna be some random person you've never seen before that we barely know. So and those are I just think it's all part of it, like to kind of prepare them for these things. And even so, it's so scary to think, what if they were still, you know, it's not foolproof. So
course.
that's why I think the conversations have to be consistent.
Yeah. And I think it's so good just to teach them that level of common sense with things that
Yeah.
maybe this is not something that we specifically talked about, but what is my mom's tune usually on topics
Right.
like
I told them a story that when my oldest was a baby, I was at Target getting in my car. I just put her in the car seat. And this woman, and she was an older woman, asked me for help, something with her car. And I was like, I'm so sorry, I can't help you. And I got in my car and left. And like, what could I have done for her? Like, she had a phone. I can't fix anything on a car that went wrong. My baby's in the car. I'm not leaving my baby in the car to go over to her. You know, sometimes you have to just do what's safe. And you hear stories of people approaching someone, and sometimes they use a kid to be deceptive. They use a woman to be deceptive. So listen, if you can't help, like I can't help you change a tire. I can't help you boost your car. I'm so sorry. But in that moment, I'm choosing my baby and getting home safely.
Yeah, and it goes back to being really cognizant of what you're posting online because all that information that's public can be used in, in situations.
right, like show the car that you're driving, the house.
Yep.
There's influencers who show their house, they show their car,
Yep.
they show their kids getting dropped off at school.
Yep. So, right, those are just basics. Don't ever show the front of your house. Don't show every room of your house. Nobody should know the layout of your house. I would say I mostly film probably in my kitchen, but almost never the bedrooms or the other rooms. I don't want someone to start mapping together the outline of my house, or, you know, we don't talk about the day school ended, the day school began. And obviously very basic, but people do still do this. I don't ever post in real time. ever. And let's say I'm on a trip and one of the things the chain or whatever it is may want 3 story sets while you're here. And I say I will do those story sets when I'm home. And it will look as I'm going to do it like in an order of this was our first day.
Right.
But I will never post in real time. You will never know when I'm not home. You will never know when I'm away and where I am. And that's just like a basic thing. But people do that.
They
Like,
think
look
about
at
it.
me. I'm here for the week. And I'm like, oh God, no.
Yeah, and here's my
You know?
kids and their faces,
Yes,
and
and
here's
I
where you can
just
find us
know.
at the pool right
Right.
now.
Not posting in real time and not letting people know when your house is vacant and where you are in real time is just, to me, like core basic safety for yourself and your kids.
It's so good that you have, between you and your husband, you guys
Yeah.
have so much knowledge of stuff, which is like a blessing and a curse, right? Because sometimes
Yeah.
you wish you could just
Yes.
not think
And
of
be
any of it.
blissfully unaware.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's not good for
blissfully unaware.
anyone.
No, not, yeah. And I'll take being the Debbie Downer. I just don't care. I'm always going to err on the side of safety.
Well, you're clearly not a Debbie Downer because
Yeah.
you have over 200,000 followers. So clearly people
Thank
like what you
you.
have to say and your opinions on things.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. I'd love to do a little bit of a bonus segment here, and we have a lightning round prepared. Just
Okay.
gonna ask some quick questions for you, and if you could just spit out the answers, and we'll
Okay.
see. So the first one would be, what's the favorite part of your job?
I would say the extra time, like just working from home and having a home base and not commuting and having all of that taken out of my day.
The most misunderstood thing about social media marketers.
That it's easy and that it's a one person job. I mean, there's people that have teams for a reason. They need to like outsource. And then you have crazy people like me who hate handing the reins to anyone else. So you just do it all yourself. But that, it's not click a picture and post it. There's definitely a lot that goes into it.
Great. What keeps you grounded?
For sure, my family, because like my dad, all these years later, he's still not even sure what I do. So if somebody asked him, I don't know what he would say, to be honest with you. I think she would be like, she works on Instagram or something. Like, so my family definitely keeps me grounded. I don't think there's any level of success that I have where my family wouldn't call me out in a second. Like if I was doing something that I needed to.
It's great. One thing you wish you could post but never do.
Probably like where like how I was talking about some things I would say I'm judging others for, not them, but because I really am like looking out, and I'm just like, why are you doing this? But so I feel like sometimes I wish I could be more blunt instead of more PR friendly speaking. So I do my sassier videos on TikTok, and it's almost like a mullet where like party in the front, business in the front,
Right.
and party
And
in the
party in
back
the
is
back.
my TikTok. Yeah.
As a social media marketer, what is a red flag content trend you hope goes away?
Family vloggers.
We can
For
all
sure.
agree on that
Yeah,
one.
family vloggers for
Makes
sure.
sense. Awesome. All right. Well, we had.
That was such a good conversation.
What a great conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
Thank
love
you so
talking to you
much for
guys.
coming in and chatting about this topic. It's
Yes,
really
absolutely.
important and interesting.